They say love always finds a way, but no one tells you how quietly it happens. Sometimes it doesn't begin with a kiss or a confession. It begins with a moment so small you almost miss it. For me, it started with a simple touch and a feeling I couldn't ignore anymore. I didn't know then that one night would change everything between us. I never thought a simple backache would be the thing to change everything between us. It had been building for weeks. Tight shoulders, a stiff neck, that slow tension you ignore until it refuses to be ignored any longer. I blamed it on the endless hours hunched over my laptop, university deadlines piling up like bricks pressing into my spine. But deep down I knew it wasn't just physical pain. There was something heavier underneath, something I couldn't quite name. We'd been living together for almost a year, me and him. My roommate, the kind of guy who made everything look effortless, calm, funny, confident in a way that made you wonder if he'd ever been nervous about anything. He moved around the flat like it was his, barefoot, humming under his breath, tossing crisps into his mouth with perfect aim. I kept reminding myself we were just close friends. Nothing more. But the way my stomach tightened when he sat beside me, or how I caught myself watching his smile a little too long, those were details I tried to ignore. That night felt different, though. The flat was unusually quiet, that kind of silence that only comes on a Sunday night when the world outside seems to fold in on itself. I was curled up on the sofa, wrapped in my favorite blanket, nursing the dull ache in my shoulders, half watching a show neither of us cared about. He was in the kitchen again, barefoot, rummaging for biscuits he'd probably already eaten. It wasn't a remarkable moment, but somehow it felt charged with something unspoken. "You all right?" he called out, peeking from behind the fridge door. "You've been rubbing that same spot for an hour." "Just stiff," I said. "Want me to take care of it for you?" He asked lightly. "What, my shoulder?" "No, your taxes," he said with a grin. "Yes, your shoulder. I give excellent massages, you know." Before I could reply, he walked over and sat behind me on the couch. His hands were warm as they pressed against my shoulder blades. I froze, not from pain, but from the sudden awareness of his touch. He started humming softly, like it was the most natural thing in the world. His thumbs moved in slow, steady circles, easing the knots in my back. I tried not to let my breath catch. "You're tense," he murmured almost to himself. "Feels like you've been carrying stress for weeks." "You have no idea," I whispered, half laughing. I could have told him to stop, but I didn't. Because the warmth of his hands sank deeper than muscle. It felt safe, familiar, like something I hadn't realized I'd been craving. I closed my eyes, letting myself lean back just a little. Outside, the city hummed and a passing bus, a faint car horn. But inside our tiny flat, with the soft flicker of the TV and his fingers tracing calm into my shoulders, everything seemed to slow down. I wasn't sure when it started, that flutter when he smiled, the quiet ache when his shirt lifted as he stretched. It had built up over months, subtle as dust gathering in corners, always there, quietly growing. He pressed his thumb a little deeper, and I let out an involuntary sigh. "That good?" he asked softly just behind my ear. I nodded, afraid my voice might give too much away. Yeah, something was definitely changing. Not just in my shoulder, but in me. People say you don't really know someone until you live with them. I'd argue, you don't really feel someone until you've seen them half asleep on a Sunday morning, yawning into a mug of tea, smiling at you with sleep still in their eyes. We'd met back in second year at uni. Random roommate assignments. At first I wasn't sure about him. He was loud, always joking, surrounded by people, the kind of person who lit up a room without trying. And me. I was the quiet one, the book in the corner, the observer. But somehow it worked. Between shared takeaways, late-night Netflix binges, and arguments about whose turn it was to wash the dishes, something easy grew between us, something we never had to name. He'd knock on my door whenever he knew I was overthinking. I'd throw crisps at his head whenever he got too confident playing FIFA. There was a rhythm to us, a natural give and take. Like the night we stayed up till 3, half drunk, building IKEA furniture with missing screws, laughing until we cried. Or the time I caught him singing off-key in the shower and recorded it, only to find it oddly endearing later. That was the thing about him. He made ordinary moments feel like something worth remembering. "Mate, stop drinking my oat milk," I said one morning, catching him mid-swig. He wiped his mouth, grinning. "I'm doing it for your own good." builds character. Besides, you don't even like oat milk. You just think it makes you look sophisticated. You absolute troll. You love me, he teased. He always said it like a joke. And I always laughed, just a little too quickly. Last week he suggested a weekend away. Just the two of us. No uni stress, no alarms. Just fresh air and an old cabin his cousin said we could use. It's quiet, he said, nudging me. You need quiet. Your eye's been twitching for days. Maybe because you keep eating my cereal, I muttered. All the more reason to escape before I finish your entire pantry. He grinned. I agreed. Maybe too quickly. And now here we were, halfway up a winding hill trail, both a little out of breath and pretending we weren't. The air was clean and sharp, filling my lungs properly. Wildflowers lined the path, scattered and bright, like they were in on some private secret we hadn't yet admitted to ourselves. We'd only arrived that morning, but already the quiet rhythm of this place had begun to settle under my skin. Remind me again why we thought cycling uphill was relaxing. I puffed, adjusting the straps on my backpack. Because you trust me, he said, eyes glinting as he pedaled ahead. You're an agent of chaos, I shot back. And you love that about me, he teased. I rolled my eyes, smiling when he couldn't see. He always said things like that. Light, casual, impossible to tell if he meant more. Sometimes I wondered if he even realized how often he did it. That evening, after dropping our bikes by the cabin, we collapsed onto the worn old sofa, legs aching, snacks in hand. The place was small but charming. Wooden beams, a crackling fire, and one small bedroom with a single double bed. Not that it was a problem. Not that I hadn't already noticed. I can take the floor, I offered, trying to sound casual. He gave me a look. It's a bed, not a battlefield. We're adults. Don't be weird. I nodded, my heart skipping slightly. It wasn't the first time we'd shared a bed, but it was the first time since I'd started dreaming about tracing the curve of his neck with my fingertips. Since the night I'd woken up with his laughter echoing through my chest. Later, brushing our teeth side by side in the narrow bathroom, he nudged my shoulder. You always take the toothpaste cap off like a gremlin. It's so aggressive. Your face is aggressive. Wow, strong comeback. Feel the burn? We grinned at each other, toothpaste foam at the corners of our mouths. And for a second, just a second, as his gaze lingered, not in the way that said, you're my best mate, but in the way that said, I really see you. I looked away first, my reflection suddenly feeling like it was watching too closely. In bed, we lay with a polite distance between us, divided by a line of pillows he called the border. It was an old joke, a way to make the situation less loaded. You're not allowed to cross the pillow border, he warned, pulling the duvet up to his chin like a kid. I raised an eyebrow. You snore. That's a bigger threat. I do not snore. Yes, you do, he smirked. Well, if I do, you'll just have to fix it with another massage in the morning. Fair's fair, I went quiet. He probably didn't mean anything by it, but the word massage sent a small spark crawling down my spine. The same one I'd felt back in the flat when his hands had been on my shoulders. I turned my back to him, trying to hide the heat rising in my cheeks. Night, I murmured into my pillow. There was a pause, then softer than I expected. Night, mate. I lay there staring at the wall, every inch of me alive with awareness. The space between us felt like a string pulled tight. One breath, one small shift, and it might snap. The power went out just before midnight. One moment we were arguing over whose playlist was better, mine obviously, and the next, the cabin dropped into total darkness with a soft thud. The silence that followed felt heavy, like the world was holding its breath. Did you touch something? I asked, eyes adjusting, heart fluttering the way it always did when things got unpredictable or when he was near. So most of the time, he joked, holding up both hands. I was literally just lying here eating crisps. How is that sabotage? You breathe like a saboteur. Well, you panic like one, he shot back, flicking on his phone torch. The sudden beam lit the room in a harsh glow. Fuse must have gone. Probably bad wiring, he said. Brilliant, I muttered, rubbing my arms as the heater went silent. The room cooled fast. The fire was dying and the old cabin creaked like it was whispering to itself. I'll check the fuse box, he said, standing to grab his coat. His shirt lifted just slightly, a glimpse of skin above his waistband, and I looked away quickly, biting my lip as an unhelpful thought surfaced. Get a grip, I told myself. He disappeared outside. his phone light bobbing through the mist. I wrapped the throw tighter around myself, trying not to spiral into ridiculous what-ifs. What if he gets electrocuted and I have to drag him down the hill? What if we freeze to death and the last thing I hear is him mocking my oat milk choices? When he came back, his hair was damp and his cheeks flushed from the cold. "No luck," he sighed. "The fuse box looks ancient. We're off-grid till morning." "And we thought this would be relaxing," I muttered. He grinned. "Could be worse. At least there's wine. Wine doesn't warm toes, then we'll just have to improvise, won't we?" He dropped onto the sofa beside me, closer this time, stealing half the blanket without asking. Our knees touched. We both pretended not to notice. After 2 glasses of wine and a few failed rounds of whispering torchlight charades, the cold had settled deep in our bones. "You're shivering," he said quietly. "I'm fine. You're not fine. Come here." Before I could argue, he tugged me sideways until I was pressed against his side. The blanket wrapped around us both like an oversized burrito. His body was warm. My heartbeat was suddenly in my throat. I could feel everything. The heat of his skin, the slow rhythm of his breathing, the faint scent of soap and smoke. He adjusted the blanket, his thumb brushing my arm and probably without realizing it. "But I noticed everything. See?" he murmured. "Warmer already." Yeah, that wasn't the problem. We sat like that for a while, listening to the soft crackle of the fire and the wind outside. His arm rested along the back of the sofa, fingers occasionally brushing the back of my neck. Maybe by accident, maybe not. Each touch lit small sparks under my skin until my heartbeat was louder than the quiet itself. Then, leaning back, he let his head rest close to mine. "Do you ever wonder," he said, voice low, "what it would be like if things were different?" I turned slightly. "Different how?" He shrugged like it was nothing. "If we weren't just flatmates." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was electric, heavy with everything I'd never said out loud. He wasn't looking at me, but I could feel it, the truth hovering between us. "I do wonder," I said quietly before I could stop myself. That made him pause. He turned to look at me properly, and the air seemed to shift. No cold, no darkness, just the warmth in his eyes, lingering a little too long on my mouth. He reached up, brushing a stray strand of hair from my forehead. "You've got something there," he murmured, fingertips grazing my skin. My pulse skipped. "Do I?" He nodded, but didn't pull his hand away. It hovered there, close enough for me to feel the warmth radiating off him. The silence stretched, fragile and full of possibility. And then, just like that, he looked away. Back to the fire, back to safety. Like he'd almost stepped over a line, then changed his mind. I felt cold again. Later in the bedroom, the air was thick with unspoken things. We hadn't mentioned what happened on the sofa, but it hung there like a breath we couldn't release. "You sure you don't want the bed to yourself?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. He turned, face unreadable in the soft glow of his phone light. "I'm sure," he said. "Stop being weird." "I'm not," I whispered, but maybe, just maybe, I was. He stepped closer, close enough that I could feel his warmth again. "Look, if I snore, you have permission to smother me with a pillow," he joked. I laughed softly. "Noted." We climbed into bed. The pillow border we used to keep between us was gone, quietly forgotten. His leg brushed mine beneath the blanket. I didn't move. Neither did he. After a moment he spoke, voice low and rough. "You're always thinking so loud." "It's exhausting." "Sorry," I whispered. He turned onto his side, his face only inches from mine. "You don't have to explain," he murmured. "Not yet." Then, without another word, he reached out and placed his hand lightly on my chest. Just a soft touch, enough for his fingers to curl against the fabric of my shirt, like he was grounding himself. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. He said nothing more, just closed his eyes. But that touch, quiet, deliberate, impossibly tender, said everything. His hand stayed there long after sleep found him, while I lay awake beside him, heart aching with a mix of fear, longing, and something dangerously close to hope. Time blurred. Every now and then his fingers twitched, or his breath shifted against my shoulder. And each time my heart stuttered. Not from fear, but from how real it all felt. I'd spent so long hiding what I felt for him, burying it under sarcasm and late-night jokes that always stopped just short of becoming something more. I told myself it was safer that way, that keeping him as a friend was better than risking everything for something he might not want. But now, with his arm draped over me, his leg resting lightly against mine, his face close enough that I could feel his breath, none of it felt like nothing. It felt like everything. I shifted slightly, trying to breathe through the ache, trying not to give myself away. Maybe that small movement woke him, because his fingers flexed, then slowly pulled back. He stirred, rubbed his eyes, and let out a sleepy hum. "Still awake?" He mumbled, his voice rough with sleep. "Yeah," he blinked at me through the faint glow of the phone light. "You okay?" I hesitated. "No." He propped himself up on one elbow, the blanket slipping low enough to reveal the soft curve of his shoulder. "What's wrong?" he asked, quieter now. I swallowed hard. I can't pretend anymore," he went still. Even his breathing paused. "I've tried," I said, voice shaking. "I've tried to act like I don't think about you all the time. Like I don't notice when you brush my hand or lean too close, or sleep inches from me, and make it impossible to think straight. But I can't keep pretending this is just a flatmate thing. It hasn't been for a long time." Silence. He sat up slowly, his expression unreadable, still warm, still gentle, but with something deeper in his eyes. "I'm sorry," I said quickly. "Forget it." "I shouldn't have—" "Stop," he said quietly. The word cut through everything. "Don't take it back, please don't." My breath caught. He turned to face me fully now, legs folded beneath him, eyes open and raw in a way I'd never seen before. "Do you have any idea how many times I wanted to say something and didn't?" he whispered. That startled me. "What? I've liked you since— I don't even know when," he said with a nervous laugh. "Maybe since you brought me tea when I was sick, or when you told that guy at the pub to back off, or maybe even that first night we moved in, when you made fun of my terrible bedding." I laughed quietly, even as my heart pounded. "I didn't say anything," he continued softly, "because I thought you'd freak out, or laugh it off, or move out. I didn't want to lose you." "Then why the touches?" I asked. "The looks? That night on the sofa, was that nothing to you?" "No," he said quickly. "God, no." He ran a hand through his hair and exhaled. "That night, I almost kissed you." My breath caught. "I was scared," he admitted. "I didn't know if you wanted me to." "I did," I said before I could stop myself. His gaze lifted to mine, sharp, searching. "You did?" "I've wanted you to kiss me for so long I forgot what it's like not to." He let out a shaky breath, smiling faintly. "Every time you laugh at my stupid jokes or stay up talking with me until sunrise, I fall a little more." Neither of us spoke after that. Then, slowly, he reached out and brushed his fingers along my jaw. "Can I?" he asked softly. I nodded. The kiss wasn't rushed or dramatic, just soft, deliberate, filled with months of quiet, unspoken longing. His hand rested against my cheek. Mine found his shoulder, holding on like I'd finally remembered how to breathe. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against mine. "I've imagined that so many times," he whispered, "but it's nothing like this." "Better," I smiled. He laughed quietly. "So much better." We lay there afterward, the quiet settling around us like a blanket. Our arms tangled, skin brushing softly, like we were learning a new language made of touch and breath. I kept waiting for it to feel strange, but it never did. It just felt right. He traced small circles on the inside of my wrist while I ran my thumb along his knuckles. Every so often our eyes met and we'd smile. No words needed. Eventually he whispered, "What now?" I turned to face him. "Now." "We stopped pretending," he nodded slowly. "You're not scared this might ruin things?" "I was," I admitted. "But maybe this is what saves it." He reached for my hand, threading his fingers through mine beneath the sheets. "Okay," he whispered. "Then let's stop being scared." And just like that, we didn't fall asleep as flatmates anymore. We fell asleep holding each other, hearts wide open. Morning crept in slowly, golden light spilling through the curtains like a quiet reminder. This really happened. His body was still warm beside me, one arm draped around my waist, his head buried in the pillow, hair a soft, sleepy mess. For the first time since moving in with him, I didn't pull away. Instead, I just watched him. His eyelashes fluttered, then he blinked up at me, adorably confused. "You're awake," he murmured. "Barely," I teased. He smiled, his eyes still heavy with sleep. I brushed my thumb across the back of his hand, which still rested over my stomach. "You hugged the duvet again," he teased with a sleepy grin. You could have just asked me to hold you tighter. I gave him a mock glare, though the smile on my face betrayed me. You think you're charming? I said. I know I am, he replied, smirking. I rolled my eyes but didn't move away. If anything, I shifted closer, our legs brushing beneath the covers. There was something peaceful about it, about not having to hide anymore. To touch him and finally know what it meant. It made everything feel right. Last night was real, wasn't it? I asked softly. My voice carried a hint of worry. You're not about to pretend it didn't happen. He grew quiet for a moment, tracing gentle lines along my arm. It was real, he said. Every bit of it. And I meant everything I said. I nodded, a small smile tugging at my lips. Good, me too. There was a pause before he spoke again. So, what happens now? That question again, but this time it didn't scare me. I don't know, I admitted. We just keep being us, with more honesty and maybe a little more kissing. He laughed, eyes crinkling at the corners, the way they always did when he was truly happy. Sounds like a solid plan, he said. And maybe, I added, grinning, you stop walking around in just a towel unless you're ready for consequences. He raised an eyebrow. Are you threatening me now? I leaned in and brushed a quick kiss against his neck. No, I whispered. Just warning you. He laughed softly and pulled me closer. For a while we just lay there in that easy silence, the kind that comes only after something long awaited finally happens. Then his tone turned thoughtful. This doesn't scare you? I shrugged. Maybe a little. I mean, we live together. It could get messy. But I'm more afraid of pretending again. He looked at me like I'd said exactly what he needed to hear. I don't want to lose you, he murmured. But I think I'd lose more if I never tried. That hit deeper than I expected. I squeezed his hand. We'll figure it out, I said. We always do. Remember when we fixed the shower with a fork and duct tape? He laughed, pressing his forehead against mine. That wasn't fixing it. That was delaying disaster. Still teamwork, I said, grinning. We both laughed, though beneath it was something fragile and new, something that already felt like home. You know, he said quietly, I keep replaying that first kiss in my head. I smiled. Want to relive it in real time. He didn't answer. He just leaned in and did exactly that. When we finally pulled apart, he looked thoughtful again. You think the others will notice something's changed? Definitely, I said. We're not subtle. Should we tell them? They'll figure it out the moment you start smiling like an idiot every time I walk into a room. He smirked. Says the one who blushes like a kid when I wink. We both laughed again, easy, unguarded, free. And I hadn't realized how much weight I'd been carrying until that moment it all lifted. Later, we made tea in the kitchen, moving around each other the way we always had. Only now there were quiet touches. A hand on my back, a bump of hips, a soft kiss to my temple. Everything looked the same, yet everything had changed. We were still us, still teasing, still finishing each other's sentences, still arguing over mugs. But now there was something more. A warmth in every glance, a promise in every touch. As we stood by the window, sunlight spilling into the room, he looked at me and said, I think this could really be something. I met his gaze, heart full. It already is. A week later we were walking through the Sunday market, his fingers loosely tangled with mine, a bag of oranges in my other hand. Nothing dramatic, no big announcements, just quiet closeness. Our hands brushed until they naturally fit together, like they always should have. The air smelled of coffee and herbs, the sky pale blue above us. He stopped to smile at a dog with a crooked tail and tugged me gently along. And in that simple moment I realized this was it. No more pretending. No more, almost. Just us. Why do you keep staring at me? He asked with that familiar smirk. Just trying to figure out when I got lucky enough for you to notice me, I said. He laughed. You've been on my radar since the first time you yelled at the TV over burnt toast. I wasn't yelling, I said, grinning. I was expressing passionate disappointment. Whatever helps you sleep at night, he teased, leaning in to kiss my cheek. It wasn't hidden or rushed, just honest. We wandered on, arguing about coriander, sharing a jam donut that left sugar on both our noses. Everything felt easy, familiar, but deeper than before. We were learning new rhythms, mornings that began with soft laughter instead of silence. Finding comfort in someone who didn't just understand you, but stayed anyway. Later, back at the flat, I was folding laundry when he dropped something onto the pile, a hoodie. My hoodie. You've had this for weeks, I said. He looked sheepish. It smells like you. I sleep better in it. My chest tightened in the best way. Keep it, I said softly. As long as you want. He smiled, leaned in and kissed me slow, like he had all the time in the world. That night we lay side by side, close but quiet. You think this will last? He asked. Do you want it to? I asked back. He met my eyes. Yeah, I really do. Then we'll make it work, I said. He took my hand and I whispered, no going back. Not for me. We stayed like that for a while, our breaths in sync. You know what's strange? He said. Everything feels the same, but completely different. I know, I said. We're still us. It just matters more now. He smiled into the dark. You make me feel like I can actually be myself. I swallowed the warmth that rose in my chest. You are yourself. And I'm lucky I get to see it. He squeezed my hand. I want more nights like this. You'll have them, I promised. All of them if you want. The next morning, life was back to its usual chaos. Burnt toast, a missing sock in the fridge, laughter echoing through the kitchen. But as I buttoned my shirt, he slipped behind me, arms wrapping around my waist. We'll be all right, won't we? He murmured. I turned to face him, smiling softly. Yeah, I said. We will. And when I kissed him, and slow and sure, sunlight spilling across the room, coffee scent in the air, it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like the beginning of everything. It doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it shows up quietly, in the middle of ordinary mornings. It's in the laughter over burnt toast, in the tea we shared, in the silence that felt like home. And maybe that's what real love is. Not perfect, not planned. Just two people who finally stopped pretending and started living. Because sometimes it's not about finding love, it's about realizing it's been there all along. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who still believes in quiet love. I'll see you in the next story.